Hello, hello, Dave. Welcome back. I haven't seen you forever.
Well, it's CR, man. I didn't know if I was going to get CR or Destiny or somebody else today. Welcome back. Glad to have you.
Well, thank you. It just so happens I traveled from a Wednesday to Wednesday to Wednesday, so it just ate up all of the time. So how has it been going on the show?
What? Wait, you didn't have a month's vacation as you're telling us? It was only 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks, but it just happened to fall from Wednesday to Wednesday to Wednesday. I did that purposely, right? So I'd have to miss the show.
It's been going good. Yeah, we've been getting questions. Destiny stepped in like a champ for someone who had never done something like that. Great experience to give her the opportunity to be here asking questions and get more involved.
Did she have a brown bag that she breathed into while she was off camera?
Yeah, I didn't see that, but it may have been out there. I know she said it definitely raised her heart rate quite a bit during the time that she was with me.
I don't know how many of you watching live have ever done a live show, but when you first do one, it seems like even if there's nobody watching, your heart just races, you get sweaty, and you're just super nervous. But after you do a few, Dave, do you get more comfortable?
Yeah, you just get to a point that's just normal part of life. You realize there's going to be times you mess up, and that's okay. And there's going to be times that you really shine and excel, and that's great.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of times in the live setting, you just learn and you just keep growing. But the best part is you stay consistent. I think that's the thing I've really enjoyed about this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something you need to keep at, and it is going to take time. I listen to other people that have been doing what I do for decades, and you do learn a lot of skills over time that as you get into it, maybe in 5, 10 years, there's things that you can improve upon and be better at.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to welcome everybody that is joining us live. Thank you for joining us. And I'm back. It's great. Even on the show notes, David, I was reading through it, said CR's back at the top. So, yes, I'm back. It's official. And we're glad to have you here because you're the one that comes on and answers all of our questions, especially those that just keep coming in. Dave, I don't know if there's a pause button where we can go and get, pause, because we get so many questions that continually come in from webinars, from our website, from people through Instagram and Facebook. They just keep coming in.
Yeah, it never ends. It's unbelievable to see the volume of questions that we have. And it even now I'm starting to get phone calls from people, which very few people have my phone number, but I'm getting calls from people saying, "Hey, I've got some questions, really need you to answer for me." And again, happy to help out wherever I can, but we definitely do have a lot of people needing help, and that's the good thing. Hopefully we can get them through the issues they have, get the answers they need, and get them on their way to a safe and secure retirement.
And we are here answering those questions live. And so we want to welcome all of those, and those on replay. Welcome as well. We do get a lot of people who watch these on replay. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and you can always catch the replay of that. Well, Dave, let's get started in the show because, like I said, I have a lot of questions coming in, and I want to pull up my first one here. And this one is from Tatum. What are some warning signs of elder financial exploitation? And I love this because it falls so much right after something you just did last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tatum, I appreciate this question as well. It's something that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. We had the opportunity of doing a podcast with Peter. I never can remember his last name.
Lichtenberg.
Lichtenberg. Yeah. See, it's not something easy like Hall, Smith, Jones, those things that I always remember. But he did an absolutely great job of addressing the issue because that's what he does. He writes books, he educates on the topic, has a website called Older Adult nest egg. You're going to have to look it up, CR. Sorry, I'm going to blow that. I always do. It's again a different web address. But when we look at it, one of the first things we've got to look at is just some of the social and daily interactions. I would say that would be one of the first ones. Often, if people are having issues, they don't respond, they don't interact with you like they did before. So if you've got someone who you've been involved with on a regular basis, but number two, you're going to have to start having some conversations about money. If you're not talking about money, probably not going to be able to even see it happening until it's too late, because most people aren't going to just come out and tell you these things on their own. Now, if you're talking about money and issues and those type of things that address what financial exploitation would involve, well, at that point, they may slip up and say something that they didn't plan to, that's going to show some warning signs there. And you can look around the house. Not that I'm telling you to go into cupboards and everything, but there's a stack of bills on, grandma, grandpa's cupboard there that aren't getting paid. That may be a sign there's some problems and you need to have further discussions. But again, it's really going to come down to having open conversations and then being in a position where hopefully they'll open up. If not, the reality of it, most of this will go unseen until it's too late and they've got an issue they can't solve. And at that point, they'll come out and tell you that, hey, I've got a major problem.
And Dave, I just looked it up. It's older adult nest egg.
Yeah, thank you. It just hit me right before you were going to read that back out. Sorry about that. I always struggle with that. But on that side, just so you know, if you're having issues with financial exploitation, not only do they have resources for professionals to help get certified to be able to address the issue for those who are going through it, but they also have a safe program for those who have been exposed to financial exploitation to try to get help, to be able to get out there and try to get people to help them through the process, whether it's connecting their state agencies that can help, whether it's getting some counseling or some help from other third parties. So be aware, great resource. Peter's done an amazing job of putting the whole program together there, but something that many people are going to need access to through the retirement because it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem.
And Dave, the thing I really liked about the podcast with Dr. Peter Lichtenberg is how I was shocked about how people really will tell themselves that they're taking money from their parents, their grandparents, and they're justified in this because they just said, hey, I'm okay doing this because I'm helping them, but they're taking so much more. And I was just so shocked by that.
Yeah, and we see it all the time. I go back to my life as a child. I'm going to wrap myself out here now. My parents are both passed away, so they don't, whether they found this out before I died, I'm sure they figured it out, whether they, assumed they knew it was me. But when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of money. We talk about that. We had a jar up above our fridge that had a bunch of coins in it. And unfortunately, most of them were silver coins that are worth some money now. But at the time, none of us knew they were really worth anything. I would take those and go play pinball. It was just my thing. It's like, hey, I don't have money. My friends are all going to play pinball. I want to go. So I'm going to take a few quarters out of here. Well, a few quarters pretty soon becomes the whole jug, per the whole container. And I think that's the problem we have with this financial exploitation family members. Hey, I did a bunch of service for you. I need $20 for my gas and the things that I did. Well, then all of a sudden it's like, well, they paid the $20. Well, now I need to be paid for all my time. And it was worth $10 now. Well, now it's worth 20 or 40 because I got bills to pay. And you're exactly right. Before you know it, all of a sudden they're justifying thousands of dollars coming out of their elder family members' accounts to pay them for stuff that really they shouldn't be getting paid for at all. Or if so, should have a checks and balance where everybody in the family is aware of what's happening.
And Dave, this is something, again, I know you're very passionate about. You've helped even your own family through difficult times as there's more scammers, there's more people out there doing this. And what's advice? Because what you did to help your in-laws was fantastic, but not everybody's going to be in the same situation where you are, where you're just so skilled to be able to do that.
Yeah, you've got to be aware of what resources are available out there. Again, through olderretirementnestegg.com, and you've got the SAFE program. But you also, when you look at it, you've just got to stay involved. I talk about in the podcast, I talk about my sister. Now, she's not even in retirement yet, but she was married to an individual who's 15 years older than she was. He kind of handled all the money and everything. She's at a point right now, she's making some really bad decisions, unfortunately, believing that she's helping other people. But that's one of the great things. If I went through the training from Dr. Peter, I actually did and went through and certified myself. And a lot of the questions, when you look at it, one of the biggest questions they have on there, because there's surveys that you take with individuals saying, hey, I need to sit down, talk to you, go through where you're at from a mental perspective. And one of the biggest questions on there was in regards to who benefits from this transaction. Who's the real person that's benefiting from what's going on? In my sister's situation, she got her and a teenage son in a 4-bedroom house. So she thought, hey, I'm going to rent out a room. Well, that room, and I've mentioned it maybe even on here at one time, was rented out at an amount of money that was nowhere near enough for the room cost, but to 4 individuals, a mom and 3 teenage kids. Well, you look at it and she's saying, oh, well, they're going to help me with the money they're giving me to pay my costs. You got that many people in your house at that little amount of money, the wear, tear, all those things, they're the ones benefiting, not you. They're taking advantage of you at this point. But people don't often realize that. So if you don't have someone involved, again, I've talked to her about it. We've had the discussion. I haven't been able to get it fixed, but at least I'm aware of it. She's moving forward, and hopefully over time, if as things fall apart, I can be there to help pick up the pieces quicker, to maybe not let it get out of hand any more than it needs to. But it's a challenge because people aren't going to just openly talk about these type of problems until often they're too late. And again, they may mentally think they're really just helping someone else and not being in a position where they can understand they're not the real ones benefiting here. It's the other people, and you're really not helping them out. You're just enabling them to continue to abuse other people.
And that's such great information, Dave. And let's jump over to Facebook Live. I've got Rick on there right now, Dave, and he's asking a question here. I'm going to show the two-part here. I'm 62, still working, and want to know where I should put funds for a cabin purchase. I have 300,000 plus in each of the following: 401k, Roth, checking, personal mutual funds, and equity in a home and rental property.
Yeah, Rick, great question when you look at it here. And again, thank you for asking the question. What I would say, if we look at it, you've got to take into consideration the tax effect. If you've got a bunch of money that's already been taxed, maybe a great opportunity to be able to get it into this cabin that over time would have some appreciation, would come out as a capital gain if you sold the property at some point, not going to have a bunch of consistent tax effects. And in my opinion, that may be the best place to go. Now, again, I don't know your whole plan, but if you look at the Roth, we want to be able to keep as much money for the future when tax rates go up in a tax-free environment. So I wouldn't necessarily look at that and have some concerns. If you were just take a big lump sum out of a 401k, you're going to have a pretty huge tax bill that you may not want to pay all in one year. So again, maybe it's taking it out of the liquid cash and then slowly taking money out of your 401k to replace it. If you feel like you've got to have more there, if you've got that enough money to be able to purchase a cabin, you're probably over where you should be and the amount of money you should have in that account anyway. If you've gone to our webinars, we talk about having the mathematically correct amounts and the various buckets, taxable, tax deferred, and tax free.
And Rick, hopefully that answers your question. If not, we'll be here. If we got about 20 more minutes or so, we can get and do a follow-up question. All right, Dave, I've got another question here. We've got some other live ones we'll get to after this here. This one's from Jameson. Does long-term care insurance cover at-home care?
It can. Now, those policies can be structured in various ways in what they cover and the amounts that they are going to cover. The challenge may be is if you're expecting a family member to step in, getting them paid out of your long-term care policy. But yeah, they do. Many of them are just reimbursement policies where you've got to spend X dollars every day up to a limit for the care that's being provided, and then they'll reimburse you for that. So if you're in your home paying people to come in, take care of you, and it's all part of that process, you'd be able to resubmit those payments and get that money back for the care they're providing.
And Dave, let me just ask a question. Are you able to design these policies? Because I've read that seniors use about 13 months of care on average and about 20 hours per week. Is that something you can go through and really customize these?
Yeah, you can structure them, to really meet your needs. Now, again, what you're going to be able to do is timing. So, I do have one of these policies. My wife's got one that we bought years ago, paid it off, did what, you should do, which, and that's the thing to understand about what I teach. I do everything I teach. So understand it's not just me telling you what to do. It's me living that same lifestyle. So we bought a policy years ago, paid it up. It's a 3-year policy and it pays a certain amount of money. The thing I don't like about it, but at the time I wasn't smart enough to realize what I know now, it is not inflation adjusted. So yeah, you can go to 3-year, 4-year, 5-year, 10-year, 0-year. You can put it on both lives if you've got a husband and a wife, to where, hey, whoever has the event first, they end up using the benefits. If there's something left, it would be available for the second spouse there. You can't inflation adjust them, so you get higher payments over time. You can lock it into a set amount. So a lot of flexibility, but understand the more benefits you get, obviously, the more it's going to cost. So if you look at it from a cost standpoint, the problem most people have is as you add all the things they want, it gets too expensive. A lot like an automobile. We'd all love to drive the nicest sports car out there, or the nicest Suburban or family wagon, whatever you want. I mean, again, in your situation, but oftentimes it's our budget that gets us to where we're not able to buy necessarily what's available.
And a lot of times I look at this too, is because, we just can't forecast what we need when we get older because we just don't know with longevity what we need. But at least you're saying, let's get something started. Let's get a plan together, because right now most people are going into this completely blind, not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 6% of America that's solving a problem that's going to be an issue for 35% of us. So we've got a, you know, 29% gap there of people that are going to have to pay for it themselves or have Medicaid step in, which is what 2/3 of America is currently doing. And we also need to consider the life insurance retirement plan, or fund, as we call it, that you need to be aware there's an option out there to use life insurance. We don't have time to go into the details today, but understand there are other options that can help you cover these long-term care events that you're going to have. Large portion of us are going to have to go through.
And Dave, I really appreciate that. I've got E-Ring. Welcome back, E-Ring. He's on YouTube with us today. And he said, Dave, what is the thought of Biden's plan to switch us to digital currency?
Yeah, so I've got mixed emotions on this whole thing. Again, as we look at where we're going to, I mean, you look at it in general, we're at a point of where, hey, not a whole lot of cash is getting transitioned around anyway. Really, if you look at it, I know for most of the places I go anymore, they don't accept cash even. There are a few of them that do, and definitely parts of the United States that are accepting more cash than others. So again, I think we're going to have some changes. I just don't know where it's all going to play out. I think that's part of the issue that we're getting into. I mean, you look at it now, even from a world that we came from, a penny meant something, a dime meant something. Now you think even a dollar, you can't even buy anything most places with a dollar anymore because of inflation and the way things have changed. So I've got to believe we are going to have some adaptation, some movement, if that's going to be the direction. I just don't know enough of the details personally to say, hey, I'm fully on board with what he's promoting. But again, I think we're going to get into a position where I doubt 10 years from now, a lot of us are carrying $20 bills in our wallets to pay for things. It's just going to transition to where that's not going to be the case.
And Dave, I like what you're saying. We just got back, as you know, we were gone in Sweden. And before we left, we looked and said, we need to take money out to bring the Swedish kroner. And everywhere we went, Dave, everything was cashless, everything. The only person that took cash was taxi drivers. Besides that, everybody else didn't take it. And I asked, well, why is taxi drivers? And they said it's black money. So it's money they can easily switch and hand around. But they said for everything else, it's totally cashless. And I was amazed to see how quickly they've evolved with that.
Well, and I'm surprised to see more places open back up taking cash here. Again, most of the venues, I go to the Grizzly games all the time, FedEx Forum. We go over to the Redbirds games, different places. They're all cashless now. Which is a little problem if you got young kids. You send your credit card with them, I guess, or whether that's legal or not. Maybe I'm ratting myself out again here, but you have to send them to go get snacks or whatever they want to have, because they don't. In my family, they don't have the debit cards and stuff that would allow them to do that. But again, it is going to be a transition, right, CR? That it's really hard as an advisor who has also done taxes a lot throughout my life. You've got the side of the population saying, hey, I want the cash because I want to hide it all and don't want to pay taxes. Well, then you got the other side that's saying, look, why should you be able to do that if I can't? We all need to pay our fair share. If we would all pay our fair share, and again, it's not just the cash people that are cheating the government, but we've got to be responsible. And I do think digital currency allows us to be more responsible, to say, hey, most of the guys fighting against it, not all, but many of them are because they're cheating the system some way. Well, sorry, you're going to get caught, and it's time to divvy up your share. That the rest of us have been paying it for decades, and sorry that you got to be responsible like the rest of us have to be.
Yeah, definitely a great thought, Dave. Let's jump down to my next question here from Roberta. How can we evaluate longevity for a client?
The best way that I know of is truly to apply for permanent life insurance. Now, this may seem odd, and you don't even have to implement the insurance if you do so. Now, again, typically people will, but these companies are designed to help figure out longevity. They know, now they don't know when your client, Roberta, is going to die. If you got Jim, the client, and they don't know that Jim's going to die at this age, but they know that, hey, this many people in the population are going to die at 78. This many people are going to die at 79. And based upon that and their knowledge of health records and blood testing and all of those things, they can give us a pretty good idea of how long we're going to live by the ratings they provide. Again, if you're getting a 1, they rate between 1 and 30, you're getting 1, chances are you're going to live past age 100. That's what they're assuming is going to happen. Now, yes, you could pass away because of an accident in your earlier retirement years, but very small chance that happens. But if you're at 30, hey, you better breathe on the mirror and make sure you're still alive, because that person is not planning for a long retirement. Now, we all have the outlier, CR. The guy that was supposed to have passed away and all of a sudden gets his life together and gets back healthy and does things and lives forever. And the guy, again, that was going to live forever, that has an accident and dies young. But all in all, if we would take the outliers out and just look at our lives, these insurance companies are going to give us a good idea to say, hey, this is approximately what you need to be looking for and what you should be planning for.
And Dave, something I just want to echo, you've talked a lot about is look, you want to be 100% sure that you are not going to outlive your money.
Yeah.
I think that's just as simple as it can be.
Yeah, there's no, again, we talk about it all the time. No one's coming back from the other side and telling us, hey, we died so young. Even my parents, they come back and say, hey, Dave, we died so young. We wish we'd have blown a bunch more money. Now, they didn't have a bunch of money to blow, but someone that does saying, hey, I wish I would have blown a bunch more money. I'd done things different. But we have people all the time that are in their 80s and 90s and just struggling and financially trying to figure it out. And I know I don't want to be that person. Again, that's why I put these, annuities and principal protected products and all these things in place for my own retirement, because I want to be sitting there at 90, living the lifestyle I want. Now, if I don't want to spend the money and I don't want to go travel and I don't want to do whatever it is that I'm doing at the time, that's fine. But I want to have the freedom to choose versus, my own lack of planning telling me that, Dave, you're done doing anything out of your house. You can't afford the gas to go down to the grocery store. Hopefully once a month you get what you need and you come back and you take care of things.
And Dave, you talked about a few products, but do you have a couple of different ideas to help prevent running out of money if you live into age 100?
Absolutely. Social Security one being, and again, people worry it's running out of money. I was listening to a podcast this morning where they were talking about this issue, and it hit me once again. Even if nothing was done, which something's going to be done, but even if nothing was done, you're still getting 80%. So if you're getting $1,000, you're still getting $800. The program can still pay that. So, 800 still goes a long ways to bills. Yeah, you're going to have a haircut and you're going to have to save more. But again, I don't even think that's going to happen. But we've got Social Security that everybody loves, that's in place, that can be fixed, that we have processes for. Well, why not match that up with an indexed annuity that gives you that same guaranteed income for the rest of your life? Again, so different for people right now that are in the market. And we saw it on one of the webinars the other day. Someone says, hey, we ask how they feel about the retirement. They're like, I was a 6 until the market crashed. Now I'm a 2. Well, then you really weren't at a 6 if all it took was a market crash to get you down to a 2. Your retirement's not where it needs to be. Versus the person that's got the guaranteed income that says, hey, I'm still a 10. I'm getting 10 grand a month between Social Security and Medicare, or 20 or 5 or whatever you need. I'm getting that amount of money per month, and the market crashed and taxes went up and all kinds of problems going around. We're blowing money all over everywhere. Well, I'm fine. I have $10,000 of tax-free guaranteed income coming in. I don't have to worry about any of that, which means a longer life, a more healthy life, an opportunity to do different things. But people just don't, for some reason, want to believe that's a good way to do the retirement, which I don't get.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dave, I have to read this next comment because I feel that Destiny misses you already. I don't know if you saw, but so Destiny was hosting the show with you for the last 3 months. And guess what, Dave? She's already back. She misses hanging out with you already.
Well, that's good. Always glad to have her back. We end up spending a lot of time together with the various webinars we do where she hosts those. So always glad to have her with us.
Dave, the reason I like what you said earlier is that you're celebrating and talking about things that you do, right? You're always talking about everything from annuities to long-term care to savings. You're doing it all. It's not something you just say, I think you should do this, but I'm not going to. And the reason I say that is because all of our employees here at Retirement Risk Advisors are all taking your advice, and they're all doing it. They're all following in the same suit. And so I like that Destiny came on and asked this question. She said, for a young person like myself, outside of personal savings account, what are good options for me to start saving for my retirement?
Destiny, great question. Glad to have you back here again. My answer to that is you've really got to look at the employer-based plan. I know you're in a situation where you have one. I know some listeners may not be, but you have an employer-based plan where you're going to get a match. You're going to get a 3 or 4% match that's going to be dollar for dollar against what you put in. So if you put in $1,000 over a period of time and you get $1,000 guaranteed return on that from your employer plus whatever the market does, you're going to have the opportunity to build your savings substantially faster. Now, I get right now people are concerned because the market's got a lot of volatility, but someone like that's young, they have years to work through that. So it's like, hey, if the market does drop, don't panic. Again, this is retirement money. This isn't tomorrow money. So get it out there, let it continue to grow. If the market drops, if we've hit the bottom, which I don't think we have, and most economists don't believe we have, but if we have hit the bottom, then you get the benefits of all the upside and you bought at a very low price. But that's where I'd say number one, if you don't have an employer plan, really, again, want to look at those Roth accounts. We want to start getting money in those tax-free accounts, tax-free growth, tax-free distribution. So as you get further in your career, making more money, you're getting in positions where taxes are going to be much higher for you, you don't have to worry about that.
Dave, you said something that just really sparked something in me where you said, this is retirement money, not tomorrow money. How do we determine and help those people who are listening or watching live to say, every dollar I have right now is tomorrow money? How do we determine when we start to transition this?
Yeah, it's a tough one, CR, and it's a challenge. I go back. I used to do accounting for one of the top athletes in the country. He was a client of mine. I will give you that piece. It was a male, not a female, but I did do the work for that. And we used to hide money for him because we knew that there was a chance that he was going to blow all the money that he had access and availability to. So we hid it and invested it for his retirement. We actually put it into retirement accounts for him because we believed as fiduciaries it was the right thing to do to help his future. Well, unfortunately, one day he found the money and realized what we were doing and was in that situation where he needed it. And so he took it all out. He just paid the consequences, took all the money out and did the absolute wrong thing. Well, what we've got to do as people is realize, again, once that money's gone, it's gone. We don't call Social Security up and say, hey, I gave you 15% last month or my portions, 6.2%, gave 6.2% of my check. I need some of that back. I need to pay some bills. We don't even think about it. We've got to start thinking about our retirement the same way, that this isn't an account that we just go into and borrow from when we need money. It's gone money to cover a period of time in our lives that we're going to need to be covered because Social Security isn't going to take care of us. We've got to have the same approach as we'd have with Social Security. And again, none of us are going to call the government and ask for a monthly check. And if we do, we're not getting it. So we need to have that same belief with our retirement plan.
Well, Dave, I love that. And I hope that we can start to move more people into retirement money and not tomorrow money. I just think that's fantastic.
I do too, because the consequences are horrible. I mean, not only from just the taxes and the penalties and stuff you may have to pay, but again, just the problem of we've just got to start thinking about tomorrow. Again, retirement's 30, 40 years, our longevity is increasing. And we've got to realize that if we're going to retire, we've got to have money there to do so. Again, it's not a job that we're going through. Now, some people are able to work into their 80s, 90s. They love it. They have no issues. But we've got to start looking at that is the holy grail of our future that we just can't touch. We've got to commit to it. We've got to make sure it's happening because sooner or later we're going to get there. And the problem is we're experiencing right now, again, this personal savings for retirement started happening back in the 1970s. So now we're seeing it play out. And people aren't ready. They haven't done what they should have done. And as a result, they're working longer. They're having more problems. They're running out of money and living off of less than they'd like to. And again, I guess your choice, you can do what you want. But my goal would be to say, hey, I want to make sure when I get there, I put things in place so I'm taken care of.
I love that. Well, Dave, we have time for just one more question here. This one's from April. What is the biggest difference between a Roth 401k and a traditional 401k?
Great question. The only difference at all is the way they're taxed. So traditional is tax deferred, meaning you're putting the money in, you're getting a tax benefit for it today with the belief the taxes in the future are going to be less. That's generally why people have invested in these, will be less than what you're paying currently. The Roth is where you're paying the tax today. It's going to then grow tax-free and you'll be able to distribute it out tax-free. So it's all just a game on taxes. And really, if you look at which one would be better, what's your belief of what future tax rates will be? And again, please don't just take the standard answer. Well, in retirement, I live off less money, therefore I've got to have a lower tax rate. That is not playing out to be the case. Number one, because we're spending more in retirement. We don't have the deductions we had during our working years. And so even though our gross income went down, our taxable income went up. And two, we've got all these liabilities that have got to be paid where tax rates are going to have to go up in the future to pay for them. So you can't lull yourself into believing what many people have taught us. It's proving that that didn't work either, because right now we're seeing people go through this situation and they're struggling to figure out how to make their money last.
Dave, it's really interesting when I was looking this up, because, we have so much information we're always gathering from, and we've got such a great team that helps us curate everything. But one of the things, Dave, I was really confused by is a lot of people are taking both the Roth 401k and the 401k, and they're splitting it back, or they're switching back and forth. They go from one account to the other, or they evenly split it in their contributions. And why do people do that?
Yeah, because they want to play both sides of the coin, really. I mean, if you look at it, saying, okay, I'm not sure taxes are going to be higher in the future, so I'll put some money in the Roth just in case they are, but I want money in this other account just in case they aren't. And again, it can be an option, but not the best option. Again, you've got to make some decisions here of where you're going. Now, employer match is always going to go into the traditional. Secure Act 2.0 has some guidelines in it that it has passed the House. It's got to pass the Senate, but has some guidelines that would allow employers to change that, where they could put money into the Roth. But again, they're just hedging their bet. They're out there, and I'm not a betting person, so I've never hedged a bet, but you see people that do, that are going to put a lot of money on one side, and then they'll place a side bet in case that doesn't happen, so they don't lose all their funds. And that's really what people are doing here.
Well, Dave, it looks like we are definitely out of time. So I appreciate you coming on and spending 30 minutes, and it's glad to be back. It's nice to be in a routine. That's the thing that really gets me when I get back.
Yeah, absolutely is. Good to have you. And for those of you that are with us, thank you for your questions. And thank you for being a part of this. It really is our goal to help you make the decisions you need to make for your retirement. I want you to have a great retirement. I want you to be, not necessarily thinking about me when you get to retirement, but being grateful that you were a part of something when your earlier years that was very helpful for you in your later years. And if we can do that, we've done our job, and happy to be a part of your lives if we can be a resource for you.
And Dave, one thing I did want to bring up here is we have our Getting Safely Through Retirement webinar coming up today, in fact. So those who are interested, tell me about this webinar, Dave.
Yeah, this is our flagship presentation. I love to teach this webinar because it's really where the rubber hits the road. This is where people start transitioning from the old traditional retirement plans that most financial advisors put together to the reality that retirement's going to look a lot different than we think it's going to, because it lasts so long and there's so many things that can happen that traditional advisors don't address. So it gives us the opportunity to educate them on the risks that they're going to face. It helps, gives the opportunity to provide solutions. And then we actually get to go through our planning and what we typically do through a case study to show people how big of an impact good planning can have in getting people to a secure retirement. We found it works very well too for those who do it themselves. We find a lot of people like to invest themselves. Well, we're a second voice. We're one sitting there saying, look, let us look at what you're doing. Let us confirm what's happening, and then they give us some recommendations that you can implement if you choose to do so to make things even look better. So it's become a great resource for those who participate. Great opportunity for people to learn what they need to and get access to the resources to get them down the path to a more safe and secure retirement.
And if you can make it to this webinar today, if not, we've got some future dates coming. You can always find that at retirementriskadvisors.com/safe, and you'll be able to find details on that. And again, Dave, thank you so much for spending time with us today and answering these questions. And if you did not get your question answered, please go to our website and fill out the Contact Us form, or you can catch us, send us a PM or DM on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll be happy to add those in future shows. But if not, Dave, once again, thanks for your time today.
You're welcome.
And we'll see all of you guys again next time, and have a good week. And we'll see you next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central Time.